God's judgment. In New Testament times, the national and religious pride of the Jews encouraged them to despise the Gentile dogs and have nothing to do with them. Paul used this judgmental attitude to prove the guilt of the seemingly pious, the very things they condemned in the Gentiles, they themselves were practicing. They thought they were free from judgment because they were God's chosen people, but Paul affirmed that God's election of the Jews were made their responsibility and accountability even greater. God's judgment is according to truth. He does not have one standard for Jews and another for Gentiles. One who reads the list of sins in Romans chapter 1 verses 29 to 32 cannot escape the fact that each of us is guilty of at least one of them. There are sins of the flesh and of the spirit. There are prodigal sons and elder brothers. In condemning the Gentiles for their sins, the Jews were really condemning themselves. How often are we guilty of the same thing? As the old saying puts it, when you point your finger at somebody else, the other three are pointing at you. The Bible commands, since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God. 2 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 1. Also read Romans chapter 1 verses 29 to 32 and chapter 3 verse 23, Ephesians chapter 2 verses 8 to 9 and Luke chapter 15 verses 11 to 32. Study the list of sins in Romans chapter 1 verses 29 to 32. Search your heart and ask God to forgive you for any of the sins you find there. Amen.